Mr. Sungenis, you just said that I'm siding with the Pelagians and saying Zosimus denied original sin. Where in my presentation did I say that Zosimus denied original sin?
I didn't say you said that Zosimus denied original sin. What I was referring to was that you are siding with the Pelagians who said that Zosimus was on their side. I didn't say that you said Zosimus denied original sin.
Okay. And in regards to the encyclicals that Zosimus wrote, he did say that he had maturely examined the entire issue when he commanded by the authority of his apostolic office the North Africans to reverse their condemnation. Did he not?
Yes, he did.
If a pope were to write an encyclical today in which he said he has maturely examined the issue of evolution and creation, and he comes to a particular conclusion, by what mechanism would you be able to know whether the Pope's encyclical was an infallible definition that demanded your utter obedience, or whether it was something that might be reversed by a future Pope or a future church council?
Well, I think I already gave that answer in the first part of the first section when I gave the criterion for when the Pope speaks infallibly, and those were 5 criteria. I could read them again for you, but I don't think you want to waste that time. No. Now, I would say this, in the case of Zosimus, that the letter that he wrote was only to the African bishops. It wasn't to the whole world, because he was trying to find out the issue. Was Pelagius and Celestius indeed, were they heretical? He wanted their help, so he wrote them this letter. He said, this is what I have determined based on what Pelagius and Celestius have told me, because they told me they wanted to submit to me. Is this true or false? Let me know. The African bishops write back. They say, no, that's false. Zosimus examines the issue again, and he determines that the African bishops are correct, and he issues this decree, which is sent out to all the churches of the world.
If he was just inquiring of the North African bishops, why did he call them storms and whirlwinds and things like that?
Because they probably were, according to his estimation. If Pelagius is in front of you telling you that he's orthodox, and that he's going to submit to whatever is determined by Pope Zosimus, and he makes it sound good, just as he did in Palestine, just as he did in Diapolis, he's got a reputation for doing this. And so I can see why Pope Zosimus would feel the way he did. And so he would naturally feel that the African bishops were being too harsh on Pelagius.
Are you familiar with the Catholic scholar Merdinger's work on Augustine and North Africans?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the insights provided in that work in regards to the fact that the vast majority of scholars do recognize that Zosimus only reversed himself upon discovering the North Africans would be intransigent and that the emperor was siding with them?
No, I don't agree with that. That is a controversial issue. I know many scholars that don't take that view, and I don't think we're going to decide it tonight.
So we don't have any real infallible knowledge as to what Zosimus said that was infallible and what he didn't say that was infallible, right?
No, I think your question was regarding whether, you know, that Zosimus was sort of forced into this issue by the emperor and the African Council. That's what I'm saying is not decided. I'm not talking about infallibility here.
But the point again is, you said that the mechanism that would have been available for a person living in North Africa in that day was the 5 criteria that were defined at the Vatican Council 1400 years later. Is that right?
Yeah, retroactively, yes.
Retroactively. So is it your position that the people living in North Africa had those 5 criteria, functioned on that basis, and had the personal ability to apply these things to Zosimus's letter so that if they were concerned about the issue of the nature of grace, for example, they could come to a solid conclusion based upon papal teaching?
Well, yeah, because that's exactly what I had said in my remarks. I said that Augustine, Macarius Mercator, Pisidius, and a number of other men had said that Zosimus was faithful in his teaching, that he did not deny the doctrine of original sin. And when he issued his second decree, when Zosimus issued his second decree that was given to all the churches of the world, Augustine and the same gentleman I mentioned backed him up and said that Zosimus spoke for the whole church. So yes, back in that time, Augustine did recognize the difference between when a pope makes a non-infallible statement as opposed to a fallible statement.
And that's when he agreed with Augustine.
That's when who agreed with Augustine?
That's when Zosimus now agreed with Augustine, and therefore that's an infallible statement.
Well, Zosimus always agreed with Augustine that the doctrine of original sin was true because Pope Innocent had taught it. The question in this case was whether Celestius and Pelagius had retracted that doctrine or not. And Zosimus thought that they did when they actually did not, and that's the controversy that we're discussing. Thank you. Okay, Dr. White, it's your claim that, let me ask you this first. Are you familiar with the fact that Augustine said that he supported Zosimus's decision and never accused him of heresy?
I am familiar with the fact that in later years, Augustine defended Zosimus against the charge that he denied original sin. I have always, in my presentation and in those things that I've written on this, differentiated, and I think this differentiation has been lost thus far, differentiated between saying that Zosimus denied original sin and saying that Zosimus was both taken in by Pelagius and Celestius and that Zosimus had used his apostolic authority to attempt to overturn the action of the council in North Africa and that the North African bishops refused to accept his alleged authority in so doing.
Do you have any evidence that, well, let's put it this way. You say that later in his life, Augustine tried to support Zosimus. Are you implying that Augustine did not support Zosimus in the beginning of this issue?
Augustine certainly did not support Zosimus's letters that were written up until the point where both the North African Council met and reissued its condemnation against Pelagius, and Celestius wrote a letter that they sent to Zosimus that was very terse, didn't use any of the flowery language of the letters you cited, that reiterated their condemnation of Pelagius and Celestius. It was not until Zosimus reversed himself, did a complete 180, and agreed with them, then, once he agreed with Augustine, Augustine certainly supported his condemnation because in those days, having the agreement of the largest church in the West, especially against the multiple churches in the East, was always something that a position and a side in a controversy wanted to have.
Okay, so I assume from what you're saying that there is no statement from Augustine that when you think he disagrees with Zosimus, that it was over the doctrine of original sin. It was over whether he was going to condemn Pelagius and Celestius. Is that correct?
I think if I understand what you just said, yes, but I'm not sure that I did.
Okay. Now, when Augustine then supports Zosimus, are you saying, later in his life you said he supported Zosimus, are you saying that that support of Zosimus is true or false? Is that a true support, or was he just making things up?
Augustine, the specific, you cited from the source that I was referring to, and that was when Augustine wrote letters against Julian the Pelagian. I believe it was Julian that you quoted from. That's my recollection of what the source was. That in those letters he defended Zosimus against the accusation that the Pelagians were making that Zosimus had consistently denied the doctrine of original sin. They did this because of the fact that Celestius's letter to Zosimus so glaringly did deny original sin, and it was in response to that that Zosimus had said he had maturely examined it. It was Augustine's position that Zosimus was orthodox on the subject of original sin, and he denied the Pelagians' misuse of Zosimus's letters in later controversies in regards to the subject of Pelagianism.
All right, but earlier you stated that Augustine did not think that Zosimus was going against the doctrine of original sin, yet you just said that Zosimus was influenced by Celestius' writing regarding original sin.
No, I'm sorry, you misunderstood me. I said that the Pelagians who were misusing Zosimus based their assertion that Zosimus was on their side upon the fact that Celestius had written Zosimus a letter where he did deny original sin, and Zosimus had said, I've maturely examined this. Obviously, Zosimus had not maturely examined this, so here you have, in a papal encyclical, the Pope claiming the authority of the Apostolic See, commanding bishops in North Africa to take an action with doctrinal ramifications based upon ignorance when he himself says that he's maturely examined.
Okay, did Pope Zosimus at that time ever bind the African Council to accept a rejection of original sin.
No, of course I never said they did. What
Okay.
the North African, what he tried to bind the North Africans to was to his authority to reinstate Celestius and Pelagius.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I was getting to. That's not an area of infallible dogma, and that's exactly what we have been discussing.
So whether
tonight.
someone is a heretic, I'm sorry, I can't ask you questions.
Yeah. I know what you're going to ask. Let me try to answer it for you.
No.
No, the Pope.
You started making a statement, that's why I started asking a question.
Yeah, I got 6 seconds left. Shut up.
Yes, Mr. Gore.
All right, forget it.
Oh.
That's it.